In this video, I'll walk you through how to write a reflective essay and provide you the guide on what to write in every single paragraph of your reflective essay. We're following the reflective essay template you can see on the screen right now. You can download that for yourself in the description. Here are 3 things that you probably will need to do in order to write a high quality reflective essay and get as high a grade as possible. First thing is you need to make sure that you're reflecting on the experience, event, or concept. Obviously, that's built in. Next up, we need to demonstrate how that experience will lead to further learning in the future. So our reflection is all about self-improvement, and you need to talk about that process of self-improvement during the essay. And then thirdly, especially in a university level, we would want to provide connections to theories or literature to demonstrate how we're applying the theories we've learned in the classroom to practices during the actual events that we're reflecting on. I'll show you how to do that. Don't stress too much. It's not too hard. Next thing I need to answer really quickly, because I get asked this by every single student, can you use first-person language in a reflective essay? Usually, yes, you can, even in an academic context, but ask your teacher. Different teachers have different opinions on that. I would say about 80% of teachers would say, yes, do use first-person language in a reflection. Okay, let's go through each section. The introduction. So in the introduction, you're going to want to introduce the event to the reader. So what are you reflecting on? What was the event? Make sure you name the event and demonstrate why the event is important. Let's use the example of if you were reflecting on an internship you went on at university. Your reflective essay will say, this is why internships are important for university students. Then you're going to introduce your key learning. So one of the key things that you learned that you're going to discuss in the essay, and then signpost the essay structure saying first, second, third, fourth, this is what's going to be discussed. Here's an example of an introduction. You can pause the screen and read that if you want. But I'm going to move on really quickly. The next section, so after your 1-paragraph introduction, you'll want to also write a 1-paragraph orientation, which goes a little bit deeper into making sure the reader understands the context of the experience. So if you're going on an internship, here's where you'll explain what the internship was, where it was, how long it took, and so on. So the reader has a good understanding of what they're reading about. Then we move on to discussing key learning moments that you had during the experience. In this essay plan, I'm presenting 3 learning moments. You can have more or less depending upon how long your essay is supposed to be. Now, how do you come up with learning moments? Well, you should probably have a good idea of key things that were really important to you during the event, that when you're reflecting, you can name a couple of key things. If you're having trouble, you could go to ChatGPT or an AI tool and say, hey, I just completed a teaching internship or whatever it is that you're reflecting on, and I need to think of some common struggles that people might have. Can you suggest some? And then it'll suggest some, like we see here, and then you can select ones that you think resonate with you and your experiences, and then you can zoom in on them and write about them in your own words. Remember, using AI to help you brainstorm, but not to write for you. Once you've selected the learning moments, this is a common way to talk about them in a reflective essay. Firstly, you orient the reader to the learning moment. So what are you focusing on? What is the learning moment? Literally define it. Then we're going to talk about some positives or what went well during the learning moment. And then we're going to talk about some negatives or what went poorly. That's what we're going to be focusing on to think about how can we improve upon these points next time. Next up, we're going to want to create a literature link. This is something that's very often missed by students. What does the research say about this? So at university, we're always using academic literature to reflect upon the real world. So this is an opportunity to say, well, what are the literature or the topics we've been talking about in class, and how can I tie this into my experiences in the field when I was doing the thing that I'm reflecting on? I know the literature link is the most stressful part of a reflective essay for students, so I provided some examples of language you can use for a literature link in the study pack that's in the link in the description. And then once you've talked about the negatives and linked it to literature, you can feed forward by saying, well, what have I learned? By linking theory to practice, so linking my experiences to what I've read about the topic, what can I use? How can I use all of this information to change what I'm doing next time or implement something new next time to develop improvements over time? That's the whole point of a reflective essay, to get to that point where you can say, based on experience and what I've read, how can I feed forward to improve upon my practice in the future? Here's a quick example. You can pause the screen if you want. So this would be a learning experience for a student who went and did work experience at a school as a teacher. If you want to watch that, you can pause the screen. I'll move on really quickly. Then you're going to do the same thing for your second and your third learning moment. Define the learning moment, talk about positives and negatives, link it to literature, and then talk about how your experience will change your practice in the future. Do it again for the third one, and then we get to our conclusion. In our conclusion, we're going to reflect upon everything we've discussed. So we'll start by saying this was a really important event. This event changed my perspectives. I used literature, so things I've read, to further inform my experiences. And then I'm going to bring all of this stuff that I've learned to future situations to improve upon what I do, whether it's public speaking, teaching in a classroom, working as a nurse, whatever it is that you're reflecting on. How can you use this past experience you've just had to improve upon yourself in the future? Here's a sample conclusion. Again, you can pause the screen if you want to read it, but we'll quickly move on. Now, this reflective essay is one way in which you can do a reflective essay. So I recommend once you've written your draft, take it to your teacher, check it against the expectations that your teacher has set for you to make sure that you're covering everything they require. And of course, you can download the reflective essay starter pack that I provided for you in the description. It'll help you write the essay plan. It's got a template so you can checklist everything you've done for each of the paragraphs and a language guide for sorts of language you might want to use in a reflective essay.